Probation Commission to order. Today is June the 27th, 2013. We are not all here today, but I think there are enough of us to have a party. We need to know people who haven't.
No, it's okay. Is your microphone on, though?
Hello? Maybe not. Oh, green light means go. All right. We have received the minutes by email, which was delightful. We've left the Stone Age. If everyone's gotten them.
Yes.
Can we approve them as they are, or do we need to add anything? Any corrections to the January 10th?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye, also, even though I don't need to aye. All right, approved as received. Public comment? We have not much in the way of public here today. Would you like to speak?
She's,
all right.
I believe, observing.
Pardon?
I believe she's observing.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll try to do something noteworthy.
I was going to say, let's see if we can make it exciting.
All right, new business. Tim is going to, and Gail are going to take us into the revisions.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Before you have the final revision or the final draft of the comprehensive revisions or amendments to our historic preservation ordinance. This ordinance has been sent on to the state, and they've given the okay on it already, so it meets their requirements and standards. But I thought before we went to started the hearing process, which should start with the Planning and Zoning Board, that I would just at least give you an opportunity to see it. If there was anything else you wanted us to add, or we could really consider that. So this is kind of informal. We're not in a hearing process here. So basically what I was going to do is kind of go over it, answer any questions you may have about that. Is that all right?
I think that's fine. Has everyone here looked at it? It was beefy.
Yes.
Much of it, I don't think we need to labor over like just the editing portions. There was a lot of that.
There was a lot of editing.
But if you want to just highlight
I was just going to highlight
important parts.
The important parts. That's about all I was going to do. Okay, so
otherwise,
obviously in the definition section, we just went through and put everything in the same format that we use throughout the ordinance itself.
Should we all pull it up to refer to it? I mean,
well, you should have a copy in front of you.
Oh.
Did you not?
No, because we received that information online.
I read through it. I reviewed it, but I
unless-
didn't bring a copy with me.
But
I'm good to listen. And it was
look at
58
that. We have a
pages.
wonderful-
Oh, I know.
58 pages was a
Okay.
here.
As an
Well,
environmentalist, I just couldn't do it. I just could
Somebody
not
will need to
print
share,
53,
because I only-
I
58
started to
pages.
push the button. I went,
I did too. I was
Well, I think next time we have any of these, if you're getting by email anything of length, we'll make
Tim,
a copy.
we've got it.
we'll be
We actually
okay.
have copies here now.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have some copies.
All right.
We're ready to go.
Hit it.
Am I ready to go? All right. As I said, the definitions, we just reformatted it. And as I said, you'll notice there's some changes. Some of the language you put in there is at the request of the state to meet their we're trying to meet, as you well know, the requirements for the local certified local government. So we have to meet, we put in language in there to make sure we met that. Let's see. Functions and duties, there's really no big changes except that we put in, after the function and duties we did on page 12 of the Certified Local Government Program requirements. So those are actually specified as required, and they want it in our ordinance. So I don't think there's any surprise. You're very aware of these. Probably the only difference, when we showed you the preliminary draft, we've done some rewording and editing of it to make it flow better. So I don't think there's anything in there that's a surprise that you want to ask about. But you can see there are a lot of detailed things we're going to have to do once we're certified. And let me just step back a second. My understanding is once our ordinance is adopted, we'll send it to the state. They'll go through the formal. It'll take a few months, and it'll have to be sent up to the feds, and before we could get certified. But my understanding, and if I'm wrong, and
right.
that I believe we're going to be fine. We just have to go through the formalities now to do that. All right. Okay. The designation of historic sites, there's really no changes. Again, most of it is editing. The procedures have changed somewhat, and I explained before the way we had it. It was funny. You go through a quasi-judicial hearing, but you submit an application, and you all determine whether you're going to accept it or not, which didn't quite meet. So we've made it more of an application they submit. The staff does a report, then it goes into the hearing process. We do have opportunities for a fee that we wrote in here, but I can tell you, since it's a voluntary system and we're trying to encourage people to come in, we're not requiring a fee, even though it obviously costs money to do this for us. Okay.
Wondered about that.
Yeah. And particularly out-of-pocket expenses, we have to advertise and all that. But I think to get, we're not getting a groundswell of people volunteering to come in, and we knew that was one of the weaknesses of the ordinance. But I think this and the tax advantages there's some carrots there that we have left out, that we have available to us.
What's common practice? Because I noticed, just for instance, Sarasota doesn't charge people who are designating properties for the plaques, which are costly.
We don't.
Those are very costly.
Well, maybe during the process they're somehow charging people for something and coming up with a pool of funds that somehow.
Well, we don't have a big process is one of the things. There isn't any pool of funds coming in. It's unlike I mean, I'd love to say there's a pool of funds, but certainly, anything you do on plaques, we don't have that budgeted. You would have to have that budgeted somewhere to have some money, and we don't have any. I don't have unless you do a separate.
Yeah, and there's various styles of plaques. Yeah. I've seen local municipalities who charge for to apply for a historic designation. It can be very minor. It can be $10, $15. It's just something.
So it's not coming from there.
And then there's a lot of municipalities who don't charge a fee because they want to encourage people to designate their home, especially at the beginning of a program like this. Now, I don't know what Sarasota charges. It'd be worth it to find out, to see if they're making up the expenses for the plaque that way.
Somewhere, yeah.
Well, I think one thing... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but there's also different plaques they may give out because there's I know when I used to work at the city of Fort Pierce, we used to give a copy of the resolution in a plaque form. And that, wasn't that costly. But then you could also buy for $150 to $200 a bronze plaque to put on your house. So you may want to find out what kind of plaque they're being given as well.
These were the designation plaques. Okay. I spent an entire day.
Yeah, and I thought one of the things you were all going to just kind of reach agreement of what kind of uniform the plaques. So that
we'll go on to that later. This was just a money
when it comes to money, we don't have any. So
darn,
it's less and less every day.
I was just saying there'll be less coming as well.
All right.
You said this is going to the planning and zoning.
Yes, it is.
When we get application for something, does that also go to planning and zoning? Or
for a designation, it won't. No, it comes to you. You're the body for that. The only time they will see something is if there's a development order involved that comes under their purview. But it may be one that requires a special certificate of appropriateness, which has to be done by you, or a regular certificate that the planning director does. Okay, so if that answered, but they do not deal with designations. You're the sole body for that. All right?
Good.
Okay. So I think the process itself follows the typical format we do a process. I think it's a lot clearer and certainly more legally defensible than we had before. Let's see. And we have nominations to the Historic Register. Rather than put all the requirements in there, we just cite the statutes that we follow the regulations. So when we have somebody that wants to be historic designated, for instance, I assume our district, the neighborhood district, would have come through us. Once you're designated you're certified. You'd make a recommendation. I'm correct, aren't I, Anna?
Are you saying for a local district? What are you saying?
Yeah, if you did it on a national district, you would come through us for a recommendation.
Yeah.
Yes. Once you're certified.
Yes, that's actually a benefit of being a CLG, is that anybody who's writing a National Register nomination within the city has to notify the city, so that way we will be aware of who's working on National Register nominations throughout the city.
Okay, and we clarified the language on designated sites. As you all are very aware, we have a fairly extensive list of structures that are and buildings that are on the that are possibly eligible for historic designation. The only problem is that the last survey was done, other than what Anna did for a couple of neighborhoods that it's at least almost over 20 years.
It's over 20 years, and at the CLG workshop, they did say that that's usually now anything over 20 years is a good project to come in with a grant application too, because once we're a CLG, we'll get a better benefit of applying for those grants.
And it'd help us if we're a CLG to get that grant.
Yeah.
So the problem is it'd be coming up with the local match, I assume.
Well, right now they exclude match. I don't know if that match.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then there's incentive
money.
because I really think we need to get that survey.
Definitely.
I mean, that's been one of the things, and the thing, not only to bring it up to date, because we have a lot of, but it'll give publicity, which we would very helpful for the program.
That's true.
All right. Okay. Certificate of appropriateness. I think that hasn't. We've gone through and clarified. I mean, Peggy and I worked on this to make this clearer, and I think we did. We say ourselves a very good job on doing that. I mean, let's see. Guidelines for review and issuance. That has not changed. Standard appropriateness. We just clarified where these come into play. And there really hasn't been any significant change. We've only had a few of those. I think we've had Mr. Runge's house. He's come in. He's had a couple minor changes on his, and they've come through us. We had the Heritage Center when they had their windows. They came through us for that. So, all right. And then the special certificate of appropriateness, that's what you handle, and we clarified that. Application process and the hearing. And let's see. I don't know if there's any real other basic changes. The only thing, we got rid of the landscaping features because I think they fit into all the other under the designation anyway, that we don't need to have a section. All that does get people excited that, well, I don't want to be designated because you'll be telling me what kind of plant, tree I can put in front of my house. And that isn't, most of these, that's ancillary to what the historic designation is in our area anyway. And let's see, certificate of dig, I went through and made that, clarified that. Right now, the only area we've designated, as you well know, is the Vero Ice Age Man site. That's the only one, and I don't know when we're going to see them for a while. So, and other than that, that was it. I mean, all the rest back, we did administration enforcement, but all the rest in the back has to do with the our taxes, the tax abatement we have for improvements and all that, which is still out there. So unless you have any questions of me and anything you'd like to add to the whole thing, I know these things can be, you think this is tedious, you should be writing them.
Exactly.
Just an apology because I didn't realize it was this extensive.
Well, the ordinance itself.
Why isn't it done? Is it?
Well, the ordinance itself is pretty big, and we wanted to clean up what we had before, because what happens, I think, when our first ordinance, we kind of looked at other ordinances, so you take all the imperfections of those ordinances and put them into yours just to get the ordinance through. So now we have something, we felt we could clean it up, and we try to do that every time we get into our ordinance.
Now it's refined. All right.
And
Good work.
Absolutely. And now we can get this thing approved and get
I would
it
just,
on to
if you would just have a motion to recommend to move it along, that would be good. Then I can tell the Planning and Zoning Board that you've given it your seal of approval. That would be great.
Does it need to go before council too?
Oh, yes. It's an ordinance. It amends the code. So it will go before the ordinance.
All right, through every channel.
Yes.
Those channels. All right.
Can I make a
then,
motion to accept, to approve, to do what we need to do to get it through the proper
I like
channels?
Yeah. Second. Whatever.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Hey,
right.
thank you.
You made that. Send it where it needs to go. And we're on our way to becoming a CLG. And then we have to observe, I think the deadline is June the 29th or something next year if we want to apply once we
next
achieve
Right.
our CLG and throw our big
Yeah, plan
harder.
for what the grant
Yes.
project's going to be.
Because we could certainly use that grant for.
Well, I think part of it is getting through. It'd be good that we don't have to have a match because this is a tough budget time, and
You've heard that before.
yeah, you will continue to hear it for a while from me. All right.
All right. No more money topics. Anything else there, Tim?
That's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Anything to add, anyone, before we move on about our ordinance? That's it. All right.
Is yours falling under new business, what you have? Or?
No. I thought I would just load it on at the end, Chairman's Matters.
Okay.
Although there were some other things I wanted to touch on, just kind of sweep up a bit. And before I start sweeping, one of the things that I like to use as a tool is I would go, since we no longer have the DVD recordings of our meetings, and we don't receive we do receive the minutes online, right? Yes, we did. But they're fairly streamlined. You don't get the full. I found that it was always more helpful to look at the recorded version, and then it was easier for me to come up with a plan, things that we needed to address.
So we're
at the
not
next
being
meeting.
recorded?
Has anyone else had trouble locating the meetings after 90 days? Like I went back this week to pull up the January meeting. I had no luck whatsoever. It was like whatever that company is that use some. It's not YouTube, but it's use something, a knockoff. It's just
All the
like,
meetings are recorded.
But after 90 days, are they
don't keep
purged?
it. They don't keep it on the website. No, we don't do that with all the boards. The only one we keep on the website are the city council meetings.
So
You
But if
requested-
anybody requests a copy of the DVD, we can make you a copy.
you
of the
still need to
DVD.
do it the old-fashioned way if you intend to use it as a.
You need to
as a
request
tool.
it. Yes.
All right.
What if we talked about having a library of sorts for this board? Is it possible to somehow incorporate that? And excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. And also the idea of making things more accessible to people as they're reviewing whether or not they want to put their home up for historic designation, and with the conferences that there would be available with Tim and that sort of thing. So if it's considered an educational tool, which is one of the things I thought we wanted to do, perhaps there's a way to be placed on the website.
Well, we're going to get to that. I have a whole section of that. Thank you. Yeah, that's absolute number one necessity. That's I think where we should start that education process. All right, just quickly, current status. Has anyone heard anything about downtown? Anything new fomenting downtown? Any news? Are any of you on Main Street?
I'm on the business, I'm not sure. It's an ad hoc committee of business owners, business property owners, and other interested parties working with the business tax that the city council approved, that extra percentage. And
Well, there's
So
no
we're
tax.
just-
You mean the economic
the economic development.
opportunity or development
I
zone?
forget the
So
exact-
basically, we passed that. We have an ordinance in place that allows these districts to be set up, and it makes you under home rule to get tax increment financing for changes in the value of the district. That additional value of city taxes could go into
would
that
stay
district.
in that district.
Right.
They haven't decided on the boundaries yet. It still has
Right.
to come up before city council, but that's in the works right now. And they're looking for more people to express an interest in this, because one of the things that one of the main tenets is the idea of capital improvements. So if y'all have any ideas, I mean, that's basically the main idea is to once the property values go up, like Tim said, they're talking about maybe 2%, I'm not sure. That money would stay in that district and be for capital improvements and what have you. So,
Is this a business improvement district?
right.
Well, it's like it. They just don't have taxing power. Okay, because all right, and the council will have final say. So
Right.
they'll put a capital plan together, and that would be used for determining what the projects are. So at least that's
Something.
Well, part of this seems to be some leeway, too, as far as we're trying to figure out what kind of committee, what type of committee it's actually going to be.
right. I think the council would probably want a pro forma of some kind of plan of how it's going to be operated and all that when they come forward.
And we're
So-
trying to decide,
and that's
too.
what you're trying to do now.
Right, we're
Yes,
trying
that's
to
my
decide, too,
understanding.
if we can get not
preliminary
only
stages.
public money, but private money. So but we're on the ground floor, so I can send you, I'll send who would it be? I guess Sherry a copy of the last minutes so y'all can know. The next meeting is July 8th at 5:30 at the PNC Bank, third floor.
I am aware of, it sounds like certain pressure is being brought on the city to do something about the diesel plant, and maybe I've heard people suggest that they dissolve the relationship with Croom, and I mean, I'm staying out of all this, but I'm watching this happen, and at the same time, hoping that we can somehow help the public know that it isn't just a matter of getting warm bodies in a building. That's not going to be the answer for downtown, because everything is connected. We're not going to get the proper tenant in there to really provide that quality that we need downtown until we fix those roads, until we get the whole gentrification of the downtown area in.
Well, it's having a comprehensive plan for the downtown area, which includes the roads, includes the diesel plant.
People get anxious, and it's understandable. They drive by that big empty building and go, I could put a whatever in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's partly what this ad hoc committee is working on, too, is they're trying to pull it all together so that the different venues come together.
Hopefully.
Well,
I called, they have a young fellow in Tallahassee that's a Main Street guy, and I just said, we seem to be languishing here. We have great intentions. I just feel like this group, really wants good things to happen, but yet we're moving kind of slowly, to say the least. What can be done? And he said, we just did a vision plan for Apalachicola. They have all of these consultants that will come gratis. You don't pay. And they will do these studies. They actually have bricks and mortar people that will come and work on restoring facades. So I'm hoping that they're aware of this. I would hope that they are. I mean, if they are participating in the Florida Main Street program.
Have you thought about just contacting them and giving them this information?
I just got it. I just got it. I was hoping that someone here might be. I assume you might be plugged.
I guess if you want to send it to Sherry, I'll send it to this board, the ad hoc committee. I can do it that way.
And that's a board of Main Street, or that's something
No,
separate?
it's a separate.
Okay, well, we're talking also Main Street.
Well, Main Street is part of this, but it's all going to tie together anyway. So that's the whole idea. I was going to make a suggestion too, as far as with the diesel power plant. If the engine inside there is a concern, Tim, I've heard it brought up numerous times, but if it's considered of historic significance as far as the city, that was a source of power at one time. I don't know how that would work. Sometimes industrial is that sort of thing. What if it were moved and put outside and put on display? As opposed,
well, I think there's some environmental issues of what's involved with that. So I don't know. The times I've looked at it, it would be a nice centerpiece if they were using that place. And
right. Part of what I've heard too is that people don't like the smell of the diesel in there, so they still.
Well, I don't know if they've done all the cleaning they would do. It's been a while since I've been in there. I had breakfast there several years ago when Croom was doing. They had the big breakfast. It was very nice. It's unfortunately it just hasn't gone anywhere. The economy has been one of the major problems.
I thought that might be a venue if that was a problem.
Would you be able to clarify at this meeting or our next meeting about what is happening with the diesel? What is the current status of the diesel plant?
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, it's not been in my department, but I believe the manager and public, they've been working, trying to negotiate something on this. There's been they haven't been paying any rent on this, but they haven't any tenants, and so it's been all this improvements have been done. That's one of the big sticklers here is that they put a lot of they said $1 million of improvements in there,
exactly,
and then so anybody coming in there they expect to get a return. So I'll try to get an update on you. I'm not really the person that knows all the information.
That'd be great.
Okay.
The Florida Main Street director is Alex Carlson, just for the record. And he was at the ready to help and to refer. So they have a big selection of consultants.
Well, and Main Street has a new director as of, a month ago, too? Is that right, Main Street?
Probably.
Yeah, so...
Third in a series.
I mean, the big problem with downtown, we've had study after study done. There's not a commitment. Either the property, that needs to be done. We're working on a comp plan amendment for the downtown right now, drafting it, but we haven't worked with Main Street yet. We're just getting the preliminary stuff together, similar to what we're doing with the neighborhoods, the two neighborhoods.
And there's definitely a lot of chatter. I mean, you've got the diesel plant, you have the arts
Right.
district, you have the Twin Pairs,
Almost daily.
all the new businesses that are down there, and now you have this bid, or not bid, but this group that is trying to
But,
raise money for improvements in the downtown.
And I think that would go a long way if you have at least a plan for infrastructure improvements that would go to help in the downtown would be a start.
I feel like they need a recipe.
Well, I'd love to help out, but there's only so many of us, and it's getting smaller.
No, we hear you. I think it's just very frustrating. We understand. I hear all the budget rumors, and the city wants to sell the cemetery. All these different concerns of mine, because I grew up here as well. But we also know what can happen when there's a real plan for downtown, and the city is kind of leading the way with the entities towards revitalization. It's the same thing with neighborhoods. So it's very frustrating to the citizens and residents. And I feel like we just keep hitting wall after wall because we don't have that strong leadership. So I don't know if there's another solution. Like you said, maybe this.
Well, I'm really, to be honest with you, with the situation, we're asking the business organizations in the neighborhood to take more of a lead, and we're willing, when we can, to help on that. Mm-hmm. And that's been the big problem every time we get into this. Look at the Twin Pairs. Mm-hmm. We did the study all right.
Yeah,
but what do you think is going to happen?
And right, exactly. Now what?
And I mean, there's other practical things in there, but the concern would be that, yes, it's feasible. Do we have a plan to move forward? No, at this point in time, I don't think there was support to necessarily do it. And just like any of these kind of plans you do, is there going to really be support when you get down to it? We've got a couple detailed studies that were done downtown, and they've gone to naught.
My understanding is they approved the plan.
No, they approved.
But they didn't approve.
They approved the
a way
feasibility
forward.
thing.
Funding and then
we have this
support.
problem time and time
Yeah.
again, and I don't think it. I think it's more about the process here. It's our implementation process. We can see what needs to be done. We finally get enough of a consensus and enough voices and enough.
I don't think we have a consensus on the Twin Pairs. We showed it's
get
technically
everyone to agree on
well, no, but it's enough that that's what holds up that,
Well,
and that's the political. That's the process.
And so
Yeah.
yes,
And that's the way you have to do it.
Then, if that's true, then we need more influence. We need more positive influence. If we're outnumbered by people that can't see how we're going to benefit from this, how we're all going to benefit from this, then it behooves us to come at it from a different direction.
Well, bringing it back to preservation, it's the same example. We have to do the legwork. No, we have to do the legwork. We really,
Right, we're all getting
Right.
old.
we really do. And that's, again, I would like to see the city do some more of that legwork, but I understand the situation you're in. However, I will say for a lot of these projects, only the city can apply for these funds to do the project. So you are a major partner.
Well, the city will apply for those, but the problem is that one, it takes a lot of effort sometimes to put the project together to get that, and then when the project's moving along, somebody has got to administer the project. So I really go for these public-private partnerships. If we can get into a partnership with a group that's willing, the volunteers or whatever, to take on some responsibility, and in that gives us, we can leverage our shall I say, restrained resources that we have. And
For rerouting a roadway? So you went volunteer?
well, no, what I'm talking about plans and these other type of things. Like we've been working, when we'll work with these, the downtown business or the Oceanside business if they want to do these improvement districts. They're going to want some advice and help on that. But if you get something going on, like a visioning effort, whatever you want to do in the downtown, and there's a consensus that Main Street wants to move forward as the lead agency, certainly we would help there. But what happens is most of the time they expect us to be doing all the heavy legwork up front. I don't have the staff to do that. Or they'll call me, they got 30 days to get something in, and I don't have the staff to do it. Mm-hmm. And you got to find out what you're wishing for. It's one of these things. At this time, it's like.
So was the situation example of that? Something could have been done where we could have.
Well, no, I think like on the road, that's a policy decision.
It's
Yeah, and you can't go beyond that. You can technically say that's road, but I went through all the hearings, and I was involved to that, and I made those recommendations, and basically there were a lot of people in there that just don't understand that the Twin Pears has what impact it has on downtown. Even with all the store owners and the property owners up there explaining the problems, all they could think of, that's just to benefit you so you can get people to stop and we can't get through downtown. Right. I mean, and that's going to delay traffic. I said, no, it isn't. And
most
so
of those people though don't live in the city.
That's right.
And there's a lot of that, but we also have people
they
live.
don't even come across the bridge.
But that's
when they leave.
That's the matter of politics. I don't even know. And the other problem is that the funding for it clearly is
not available.
It is not available from the the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Organization, because they have so many projects that have to be done. There's no money for it, so we have to wait till they do the R&R on the rehab on the road, which may be at least 7 more years, if not. Or somebody as
But don't get discouraged.
No.
Plan for that.
No.
Plan for that now, and then if the funds can be had earlier, then you get it in early.
I would have preferred, and I'd recommend that we have a plan set out how to do this and what type of steps, because I don't want. But it did not, it did not have the support to do that. But I'm still coming back. No, it's not a plan. That was a feasibility study. Yeah. The actual design and everything else goes through the planning and design that will have to be done in a later process. All that does is shows you can get rid of lanes, and you still have capacity. You don't have traffic operational problems, but the actual design you get into.
Well, they had a design in it, though.
Well, they did that just so they could look at the feasibility and to give you some idea.
What's wrong with that design?
Just a rough.
Well, because there were a few things in the parking that could be looking at. There's also ways that the cost of the project could be reduced by decreasing the size of the project. But those are things we could have looked at further down the line. Right now, the big thing we did that's been there is that everybody's saying this isn't feasible. It's hurricane evacuations. Every excuse under the sun was brought up.
Yeah, but
and it was shown it wasn't.
Really. I mean, they even made the parking places big enough that you could pull in without having to back into them.
And that was done. No, you're right. But I mean, that does not.
Right.
But people were still attacking it. So it's
basically right
people
now.
People attack it anyway, but most of them are from the island.
Well, I mean,
but now we got 51st Street done too.
Well, that was all brought up throughout the whole thing, that we do have these bypasses and all that. It's not an issue, but maybe it's a time. We've got it out there. You haven't heard the end of it. I'm probably going to try to move it a little more along, and when I do this comp plan amendment for the downtown, we'll see how much support is for that.
Basically, it's been the feasibility study was approved, and MPO is behind it. We've done everything we needed to do. It's basically a political move right now.
Right.
You have to have the political will to do it.
Yeah, and obviously the financial resources do
the
it.
Financial, as far as I understand with the MPO, there's matching, or it depends on how long you wait. But there's also, like Tim was saying, if we can get the public-private partnership and because a lot of the downtown businesses, including the property owners, are more behind it now than they were before. So we actually have more forward momentum as far as the actual stakeholders. So.
And certainly you can do assessments and other things, or use the incremental tax fight. There's some ways that you could bring additional money into it, because some would have to be done anyway. The beautification couldn't be done with state, federal. It'd have to be some local money anyway in the thing. And the whole idea was to get the project down using state money. That's why the R&R came in. But until we have a solution to that, at this point in time, we don't. But there are other ways to do it. So relying just on state and federal money is not obviously the answer. And since it does benefit the downtown, there is some justification in having them, and it gets away some of the arguments people have about this just benefiting them so they can have people at their business. Well,
that's right.
Get back. It does.
It does.
And that downtown is in public interest. Just like anywhere in the city, we want to see exactly right.
It improves the quality of life for everyone.
I agree. But,
one of the things that I hear beachside people saying all the time, and I'm not slighting beachside, I'm both side, is, we have this and it's never going to be this, so why bother with it? And to discount something that has its own character, we're going to have 2 different good things going on to choose from. choices,
I don't think
spice
a lot of
life.
the Oceanside business. I've talked to some of them also. They have their own thing going, and it's not that they don't care, but they're not interfering with what we're doing. So in their mind, we have what we have, you have what you have, and to
It's
them
just
it adds to the
it's
mix.
just a few
So
vocal-
I think there's less of, well, the downtown's Oceanside. There used to be that big push, but I don't think that push is as hard and as strong as it used to be. I think there is more of, well, we've got this. We've actually been doing okay on our own. We haven't been asking for money. That's what they tell us. And so they're not really looking to interfere with what's going on with the downtown. You'll find it's more of the outside, the other cities, oddly enough, not even within the city of Vero Beach itself as far as the dissension.
Well, I think we need to move on because we're talking to a very.
And I was going to try to bring
We're
it
preaching
back
to the choir.
Yes.
And I was going to try to bring it
Exactly.
back to what this board can do. We could start focusing on what we can do for downtown revitalization. And one potential project would be, whether it's grant fund, whether we have to wait for the grant or not, is potential for a National Register district
absolutely.
downtown.
No-brainer.
Which obviously the survey would have to be updated, but if all we can afford is that particular project where we get the survey updated in the historic downtown and then get the National Register nomination completed, that would at least focus our, we could focus our
Very
efforts
good.
there.
It brings attention back to what we're doing.
And it'd make available more monies, type of monies for commercial. They get tax credits and other
Exactly.
things. So that's a good idea.
Would add to.
Very good idea.
And anything else that we could do just to endear people to what would be the new aesthetics, of that region. Maybe we've been deficient there too. Maybe we could have done more, appeared at some of these meetings, shown before and afters of other small towns that have done those programs. And even show, a lot of people aren't aware of how charming that whole area looked, in the yesteryears, with planted, divided medians, with palm trees. I mean, it gave you that feeling driving to the beach instead of that step on it feeling, put the blinkers on. So, I mean, it's a good thing.
That's part of the education, I think. And
Part
I
of
think
the
that,
education.
But again, these types of top projects too,
Pennsylvania.
Main Street may be willing to collaborate with National Register
That would be
District.
great.
And who knows, we could approach them.
They seem anxious to help. All right. Tim, do you have anything else to mention today?
No, I think you've heard from me enough.
All right.
I'd like to let him quietly do his job. Not too much attention.
Quiet guy that does it all. All right, chairman's matters, and I'll try to speed through this if I can. Let's talk about plaques first. Everybody should have
We got
part
lots
of
of them
this.
here if you don't.
Let's see. You all have this? Yes?
Yes.
Deb got one. All right. The last time we talked about this, I just kind of did a quick review here, so it would be easier to follow. I found out that basically we have free reign. We could make them out of anything we want to, which is kind of cool. I didn't realize this. I thought they all kind of looked, like funeral markers in a way. And indeed, most of those monument companies, that make funeral markers make these as well. Our friend Michael Zimney was quick to recommend the Siwa company. All these companies have been in business for 100 years or longer. They do the plaques that you see on roadways. They do the plaque like the St. Ed's plaque, the cast aluminum one that they add color to. So, they claim that they can make almost anything, but you would be receiving an aluminum one, and it would be roughly around $150. Erie Monument does the heavy bronze one that is more prevalent in cities, that largely black with just the gold bronze relief in the lettering. Again, they claim that they can do almost anything. Price is about the same for the same size. I just priced out a 9-inch round one. The last time we talked about the plaques, we discussed icons. We vetoed the pineapples. Said that was too much of Fort Pierce insignia. Then people didn't get excited about hibiscus. Citrus didn't seem to belong on a house. because it wasn't formal enough, perhaps, although we could still revisit citrus. And I couldn't find really an image of a citrus tree that was compelling enough to want to look at every day when you go in and out your front door. Our current consideration was palm tree, first region of the tropics. That seemed to kind of work broadly. While I was searching for vintage palm tree images, I decided to look at colonial coins, thinking that might be one spot after I went through all of the other botanical drawings, and found a number of them on coins, not too many, some of them on British colonial coins, not perhaps one on Spanish. They're big on the Spanish cross, though, boy. So anyway, it just occurred to me when I went back to look at engravings and font and admired the two palm trees in particular that I've enclosed here, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought, coins. This is a treasure coast. This is what we need. So what about the idea? I'm hoping you'll be enthusiastically endorsing this idea, make our plaque into what looks like a coin. Yes.
I like that one.
With
I
a
like
palm
that,
tree.
yeah.
And that kind of covers both bases. Treasure Coast, our own currency. And then
I like
so
the top right-hand palm tree.
the right one, the bushy one.
That's
Yeah.
my favorite too.
Is it?
That's what's
It'll
that's what's
occupy. It'll make it a
sticking
busier
out.
one, but it'll
Do you
fill
have a
it.
copy? I'm sorry.
Do you have one?
No.
All right.
I like to see what you're all
I lost a lot of sleep for these. So I'm sorry.
No, I think this is great.
So,
top right-hand is the best.
all right. So if you
Of
go
actual
on here,
palm, yeah.
we'll go back to page 2 in a minute. So these are some of the
I like this.
some of the images. This is an actual. And when I spoke with an attorney, he thought that we would probably not be violating any copyright law issues by actually utilizing the image on this coin, which is outstanding.
I think it
Is that
is
not
too.
gorgeous?
Yes. And then, what would you recommend? Were you thinking anything about?
Well, we're going to go back to page 2 and talk about that. So, and as far as finishes go, I think if we go with the bronze, we would come up with a gold coin. Our other choice would be to go with the Seawall Company maybe and do silver, and then I thought to give it that kind of relief. So maybe gold is more cherished, more valuable. I don't know. What do you think?
Bronze would be better than
The gold. And then I really I loved that finish.
what's
Yeah,
that?
the antique. It's like an antique finish.
And I'm not even sure they can accomplish that, but I'm going to push for it if everyone here is in favor of
So
that.
something off-centered, in other words, not quite round.
And so last night,
Is that what you're thinking, Deborah? Also, something not quite perfectly round?
well, I don't know. I thought, the many of the Spanish coins have hammered edges and are very irregular. But if you made that into a 9-inch plaque,
It may
I was
not
afraid
come
it
off
might look like a bad pizza or something on the wall. So
Yeah.
They might be
you know,
willing to do an
That's
inexpensive example of.
that's $125 to do the die.
So they don't have a.
It's all on paper until you, and we have to submit the artwork. So last night at midnight, I coerced my daughter into at least so that you could get a better idea, getting rid of the text there so that you would see how that would look. Like that.
I think you're definitely going in the right direction.
So
That's
the other things, and we don't have to make these decisions today, but I thought that I would contact all of you by email, and we can get this done rather quickly. I think it'd be very compelling to get this
Just
wrapped
clarify, you'll
up.
contact my office by
Pardon?
email.
Yes, I did make a note of that. And run it through City Hall. And also, a lot of times I feel like when I do that, it just goes out into the atmosphere, and I don't know what happens. So please respond to me.
Okay.
I got it. It's great. I don't like it. leave the edge
Not
off,
to you,
whatever.
but through the channel.
Yes,
through
yes,
to Sherry.
using the middleman.
Or Tammy.
So, page 2, just quickly, we have to decide if we want it understated clean, like just VB and the date, like one of these trees has. That was the first phase. Or do a more authentic rim with the raised lettering, or say City of Vero Beach Historic and the date, City of Vero Beach Landmark and the date, Historic Vero Beach and the date. You might want to add something.
Are you thinking of them incorporating this design, this decorative design
like
around?
it. I
I
like
do
it
too.
I mean, we
Because
can
you
use
could
that-
do one of two things. You could have the VB instead of the date and put the date at the bottom.
Right.
Too. You mean
That
that's
was-
what I have to kind of figure.
And
don't
I
have to
thought we
figure it
could
out.
do several just, versions before we submit it to the.
I just want to point out, I don't think she can be used as a middleman in this thing. So you still have so you're not going to be able to get feedback. I don't think you
Why?
can be taken. It's like taking votes and then coming back.
Oh, then
Gotcha.
we would vote here. Oh, you mean just on?
Yeah.
But we can
On the
say yes, we
development?
received something.
Yes, you can.
That's what I was referring
I thought we
to.
were getting feedback, and you can't. Okay. Without having the.
Did you want No.
She was looking at feedback.
Okay.
Can't get
We already
feedback.
gave her feedback.
Well, you're in a public meeting.
But
You're
not
giving her
via
feedback now.
Not via email.
But we can acknowledge that we got your email and are
Yes, you
reading
can.
it.
All right, so
That's what
I
I
will
thought you
just.
were saying.
But then we have to wait until another
No,
meeting
just
before
no.
we can.
Well,
Yeah.
that's fine. That's when you make decisions. That's the whole idea. But you can't use us for middle people to do the decision. That's what we're saying. I'll check that out.
You can send
Yeah.
everything to our office.
Yeah.
I can send it out to everyone. You guys can write down your comments, whatever you have.
All right,
Bring that
well-
back
And
to a
send it
meeting
back to
and
Sherry.
share your comments.
That'll help somewhat. At least you'll have a chance to
Yeah.
look at it. And
I mean, don't you want to have a meeting? Sure.
probably not as badly as you want to get out of this one.
We got to get 4 a year anyway.
That's right. All right, we're coming back tomorrow.
Yeah, we don't have to.
Or we'll still be here tomorrow.
So
I don't know. There's
what
a
do you want to
chance.
accomplish on this today? I
All right,
guess,
just
would be-
you can take this home with you now, I suppose. We don't even need to chat about anything. So these are just the different things I would like you to consider, whether you want the edging. I kind of like the
Well, we all like the top right-hand
palm tree. All right.
I like the 1915 coin you did. And what are you going to do? Put the wording around the outside?
We'll see. I'll do several knockoffs.
see.
and
You'll do a
we'll
mock-up?
see. You can
Okay.
look at it. And then for fun, I mean, it really is fun just to Google images of British colonial and Spanish colonial coins and look at them. They're just masterpieces.
Thank you. This is great.
Yes. You did a lot
All right,
of work.
and
I
did you
think the
get?
number 4 on page 2.
Yeah. More on page 2.
It's the least wording, so it fit better. You could make it bigger.
Historic Vero Beach and the date.
That would be my vote.
Okay. All right. We'll make a note of that.
What would you think of if you just do the how do you feel about the VB? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. At all, having it on there at all.
That more of a contemporary look. That was my first choice, but that was before we went in the direction of creating a coin. So I think if you're trying to capture that vintage coin look, I don't know.
I was just
mean,
trying
we would do
to-
too large. The font would.
I
look
was just trying to
vintage.
understand what Herb's whole design that he was supporting was. Is it? I
He
know
wanted-
which palm tree. I see the wording, but are you also
I think he meant-
incorporating the VB
I think you meant this.
with it in the top right?
Did you
Or
mean
was
the
it just
historic
palm?
Vero Beach and date number 4
Yeah,
here?
number
Yeah.
This is.
But did you support the VB too, or no?
No, it would be like it'd
Just
be
the plain
Vero
palm
Beach,
tree.
and then
Okay.
the date down the bottom,
Okay,
and then the palm tree.
And the fluffier palm.
yeah,
okay.
the fluffier palm in the middle.
that's what I want to understand.
And just very quickly, I don't think
what
you
you're
guys
saying, the wording.
received this. This is Palm Beach's marker, which those of you who were here in the earlier years have seen. I had them at the 100th birthday celebration. New Smyrna's, which they're charging $275 for. And then the coolest thing I found out was Coral Gables uses a ceramic one. They have a ceramic artist do these poured cast ones that are hand colored and are just supposed to be gorgeous.
Oh, wow.
So
Coral Gables
pass
has
it?
a lot more money.
I was going to say just a little more exclusive
Exactly.
than our.
I don't know. They have a lot more money, much higher property taxes.
Coral Gables. Yeah, maybe. All right. Let's see. Historic plaques. Community information. All right. So I've been approached by a number of people who would like to designate their houses.
Great.
By email, there are a number of people who are purchasing homes that want to know about the ad valorem process or are concerned they're purchasing houses that have already been adulterated to an extent and want to know if they're still considered historic. So what I'm getting at here is the time has come really for that detailed website. And I know that, Anna, you've done some things on the website.
It's
But we
posted.
really we need to have everything there. I think we need some compelling before and after stuff. I noticed that other cities, I've been looking at other cities' historic page for their department, for their HPC departments, and they're dynamic. They change according to how much they've accomplished and where they're going with their neighborhoods and so forth. So I think because we're at square one and people need to know, I think we need to put as much there as we can.
So do you have any particular examples of what you want to see? What are you saying?
Yes.
Because the application's on there. We have
Right.
lists of designated buildings. We have what it means to be designated. So if you can provide
All right, and so my
more detail
next,
about what you're saying.
can we do like a work day where we come in and help you with that? We bring materials and we try to assemble it, and
Well, can you give me an example of what's lacking so I can understand what you think needs to be what further needs to be posted on there? I'm trying to
I
understand.
just think we need to make it more
Or at the next meeting?
user friendly and more. We need to draw people in. Is your home historic? Is your home in one of the following neighborhoods? And then list them. I mean, have our historic neighborhoods
Okay, I kind of
listed.
see where you're going. You mean historic neighborhoods that are not designated historic?
Yes, because we had to start somewhere. If we're going to wait for them to be designated,
I see what you're
we're gonna-
saying. No,
Tim,
these
wake up.
No, I'm
areas that were.
I'm just trying to keep you on the straight and narrow here when I hear
No,
all
but
this.
we don't have a chance to talk about this.
Well, I know, and that's
I know.
what these meetings are for.
No, but you can go to sleep. I'll bring you a pillow next time.
I'm not going to sleep. I'm listening what you're having to say.
All right. Anyway, so
Is that something you can come up with, or are you
Of course.
saying, Anna, I really need you to come up with it?
I'm not throwing this on your
Okay.
shoulders. I'm just saying, can we pick a date? We would be happy to come in and help you. I would bring, some materials and.
Because I don't actually create the website. A city staff person.
But we
does
can
do
present them with the material that we would like
Exactly.
to see there.
We'd have to have an official meeting to do that.
You could have a workshop
All right.
meeting for that one item if
For the
that's what
site.
you want to do. You can have a
Perfect.
workshop and you can bring your stuff in, but it has to be a public meeting.
Okay. Do we need a motion? Because it would resemble a meeting if you actually.
Can we actually sit at that table and work? Or do
Yes.
I mean,
No, after the workshop, though, would we have to have another meeting to approve what we did for what we've done?
Yes. We can't take a vote at a workshop.
It's like
meeting.
painful dental work.
You can just have a regular meeting.
All right, yes. And then repair to the table, do the. Okay. Pick a date.
Well, I don't have my calendar with me. When are you looking at doing this?
I think that needs to be
July.
first order of business. I think we need to do that.
End of July is not good for me.
Vero Beach is vacant the end of July.
We're helping our daughter move. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I'd be here.
It's all the better if it's vacant.
Are you guys around?
Yeah.
Well, I can check our calendar and call.
That'd be great, honey. Thank you very much for your help.
The very end of July.
Very end of July, no one will be here. The room will be empty, I fear. All right. And when you come to that meeting, bring specific things. If you have time, go to other city sites and see what you think might work for us.
Because it almost sounds like you're saying we need to have a main page that grabs people. We need to just
Absolutely.
add another page that grabs
Absolutely.
people, and then it will refer to the other.
At that meeting, do you want to do just work on the website, or do you want to also incorporate this into that meeting?
The marker.
Yeah, I'm certainly
do
if
the
I
marker.
have the information for the marker, and I should by then, because it'll take us 2 weeks, I think.
And just to give you a heads up, we are very limited on that website. We can only work within the framework. If you go out and look at it, we can only work within the framework of what it's in now. So it's
You
the
mean
cities.
space-wise?
Yeah, space-wise, we still have to have the cities. I forget what you call it, but the banner line across the top and the banner going down. We're limited because of the expense. Otherwise, you're creating having a whole new website that they're managing. So just keep that in mind as well.
You're talking about the city's first page or our first page?
I'm saying our first page is actually going to have the city's banner line still of the city's website's first page. That makes sense. It's not like it's a separate web. It's not like the historic preservation website. It's a separate website from the cities.
Right. But are we limited by space? We have like one page, one open.
No, you can add another.
Okay.
You can have a couple pages.
All right, and
But if you go out and look at the city website, just know that the top banner is going to
familiar
be
with
there,
it.
and there'll be a
That's
side
fine.
banner,
yeah, it is huge.
just like it is now.
Huge. All right. And also, I think the next important thing to attend to is getting vital information to real estate professionals. And
Yes.
again, I think we need to make that, and we need to probably go to the Realtors Association, get their email addresses, and just send it out via email, rather than try to have meetings and luncheons, and that's way too.
So you're suggesting
complex.
for the board to come up with a brochure for realtors, and is that you're looking at, like a
An
brochure? or-
e-brochure.
Sure, an e-brochure and a pamphlet.
Then you get into who's going to pay for the pamphlet,
Okay,
who's going to
so, yeah.
decide.
But what
I'm
are
not
you
doing that
memo
again.
or
what are you
brochure?
trying
What
to
do
tell
you- yeah.
the realtors?
Oh, that there's great economic incentive, and tell them about the ad valorem, anything that helps them sell a property and makes it easier to sell historic properties. They need
Would
to
you
know.
make a presentation at one of their, they have monthly meetings?
Yes, but again, I think the quickest, easiest way to get it in front of everybody's face, they all have email addresses.
True,
It's
but
just to
will they
send
read
out and-
it?
Well, hopefully.
Well,
Yeah, it depends on the caption. It depends on how we draw them in, and I think that's the place to start. And then if they need further explanation, sure, of course, Anna or I would be delighted, or they could call us.
Are you going to give them a list of what is there, what is historic?
And that's
what
on the
qualifies?
that's on the website. What's designated as well.
All the sites that are designated on the website.
Yes,
They are.
There aren't that many.
and the ones that no, there aren't.
They are.
We got
They're
the
plaque lists, but they're.
Yeah, they're not that many.
So if you're wanting to, provide education about which areas may have potential for being historic,
Exactly, and that they are our best go-to for that. All right, so we'll just try to do all of that the day we have our.
because a lot of them may not know there's a master site file that was done on the property, and they can call the planning department and get a copy of that master site file. Little
Exactly.
details like that.
So they'll just
Talks about the
hopefully-
historic significance of the structure.
Hopefully, they can just keep that as a tool to refer to. So, all right, number 3, ideas to give the public ability to see potential in renovating and create motivation. Tim's really going to get a headache now. This is just an idea, and you can, I'll just quickly describe this one idea. I spoke casually with someone who used to be on ARC. We're not ready for doing any kind of design review process yet, or standards, or develop any, but design standards. But I thought I know we're limited at what we can do, but if we get people, part of ARC's purpose, that as is stated in the ordinance, is And let's see, I actually jotted this down so it looked like I was adhering to. All right, and there, improve overall design quality of exterior appearances of buildings. That's part of their mission. So, on that note, if we have a voluntary group of people, maybe the fellow I spoke to, there are a couple of people on ARC now that I know would do it in a heartbeat. And if we listed maybe, I don't know, the first 50 houses that we felt were either the biggest challenges, the most important historic properties, and then just once a month randomly pick one, outline what the period of the house is, the style, and then do a before and after, like just a photograph, a drawing, with colors and whatever, and then people look at that. People cannot imagine properties until they're done, until you look at them. Same problem with developments. When you start a development, it's always hard getting that first phase in place.
Have the vision.
Because people are not inclined to come in and see what you're referring to. They want it to be three-dimensional. So I just think that would be a really useful tool.
So how would that get
I think I would lean on the
completed?
newspaper, talk to, like Mr. Reisman or something, and just have it in like the Sunday paper. It's like, have a historic spot either in the living section or...
You're talking about photos, having a photograph in an existing building
or
and then
a
showing
drawing.
a photo or drawing of an existing building and then show a photo or drawing of what it would look like rehabbed,
Right.
basically. Okay. So, and you think
be
that somebody
educational?
yes, you think we would partner with who to do this work, to do this
would
project?
ask for volunteers from Architectural Design Review.
Okay.
Yes, or-
Okay.
Yeah, ARC.
Okay.
I'd like to get them to help me to do it for their own work.
But this would be fun. This doesn't really work. No? If we put them in a restaurant and give them lunch or...
So what would we do? Have the planning department make a formal request to them at their board meeting, or will we talk behind the? Would you
I think
or
what-
somebody?
I'm being serious. I still can't get them to help on the design review criteria. It's why we don't have any.
Seriously?
That means that I have to do the work to get it going. So
Well, I wonder if we could focus
I'm
on.
being serious.
I wonder if this work could focus on design review in historic areas and get it going that way, or like downtown.
Even though we're...
Well, I mean, it's
We
a
could
little
push it.
it's a little outside the council has approved where we're moving on this. So we've already got a partial ordinance. We've redone the Architectural Review Commission ordinance. And the thing left, it gives them authority now to review in the new overlay district on Cardinal and Ocean Drive. However, they don't have any other authority yet until we do some design criteria and all that. And that's what the
Well, and I hear them
Promise.
say that repeatedly. We can't do anything. We don't have any power. Well, get
they've
out
got
there.
power. The council has basically given them power to deny projects now. The problem is they don't have that power until we have some actual design standards that
For
can be
people to-
applied in a quasi-judicial hearing process. And that, and that's what the problem is in doing that. I'm just saying,
Who's
these
supposed to come up with those standards, you or they?
They.
Well, I called on. I'm not getting a lot of help. It's going to probably be my sitting down and going through it. I'm familiar with that, but I'm not an urban design type person. But I am trying to get at least one member to work with me, and the person hasn't come back. So I'm just telling you, those are great, wonderful ideas. It's just trying to get them
Make
to
it
work.
happen. That's what I'm
Yeah.
Now, the historic part, though, that's not something that would. We're just basically visually renovating a home that has nothing to do with actual design standards. The house itself is already there. We're just improving on its look.
But they would
based
have
on
to
historic
meet. It would have to meet
significance.
whatever the historic aspects of that building.
Right. So it wouldn't fall into
Right.
what the new,
It may not
design
have to be a
standard.
architectural review board member
That's
either.
what I'm thinking.
You
We're
may,
basically
you may
trying-
need to reach out to somebody else who's willing to help with that type of project.
We're just trying to
I just thought it might
give
be
an
nice
idea
to
of what it would look like.
if they were looking for something to do, but according to Tim, it's like they're trying.
They've
to
got
renew
something
us.
to do, and I.
All right. Well, then I can farm it out, and I don't need to identify owners or specific addresses, or if it constitutes any kind of privacy invasion issues. They'll have to find out too. We'd have to ask permission
Get their
first.
blessing.
Says permission.
I would before it goes in the paper and everything.
Okay. So everybody likes that idea?
That's John Dean.
Okay, no comment. Annual events. Sarasota does an annual event to recognize property owners once they designate, this is something we could do ultimately. Jacksonville does an annual preservation awards for people that have done a great job on historic buildings, business and residential. I was reading about historic preservation overlays. I know Tim's blinking.
Well, I mean, we get back to the same. We've got that situation doing overlays. That created the crisis to get the historic preservation through. We have provisions that you can do an overlay, but again, it gets back to telling property owners what they can do, and you've got
With an overlay?
Oh, yes.
How restrictive is that?
Well, it depends how you do the overlay. There are conservation districts where you're just looking at minor things, that maybe setbacks and a few other things, and maybe front porches and a few things, or you can get a much more detail in that. And if it's a historic district, it usually you have to have.
But not a historic district, a historic overlay. Is that there's a distinction? It's the same. It's the same.
It's the same.
Okay.
It's just different
Yeah.
terminology.
So, I mean, and the biggest thing, even the vision plan, if you all recall, the vision plan said that the neighborhoods, you had to have a substantial, a substantial majority of the property owners to be behind it. And that's what will happen when you get into this, when you start doing that.
I just thought
70%. And you try and get 70% of people.
Well, and it really is a policy decision of the city council.
We're trying to do that for our subdivision.
You have to show it's difficult. You have to, but I still feel like it can be done, especially,
Yes.
we look at our commercial downtown as well, and you have to build the support.
Well, downtown, the thing with the downtown's always been the problem is it's the most liberal zoning district in the city. There aren't a lot of things we can do without changing the charter to make it more investment, potential down there, and that's what we need. We need somebody to come in, put a project or two in that would help that. I mean, it's doing fairly well what it can right now, but we need housing downtown, those kind of things, and it just isn't happening yet. So,
but a local historic district, as far as it would. Provide guidance for the rehab of historic buildings and the new construction, any new construction that goes in that area.
Yes, if traditionally or most historic districts, other than like the one that was done in Osceola Park, it's a district, but there aren't any requirements that the property owners follow anything. But there are advantages for them if they, to do that. So,
right, yeah, they could start with a National Register district.
Yeah.
I'm saying if a local district were supported downtown, that would be a possibility as well.
But you'd have to get up front what you're going to be, what are the scope of the district, the powers of the district, and that, because you're going to have to buy all the property owners, or a majority of them.
That's what I said, if it were
So
supported.
it's that kind of thing. And in fact, I'm working now, I'm proposing an overlay district in an original town to protect some of the remaining residential areas. And even that, I've got a process set up that is pretty limited to what it would be, but then if it goes beyond that, it would have to go through a study, and the city council would eventually have to give an okay. The thing that staff would be worried about, we don't put a lot of work into doing a district where there is no political support for it. You get up at the very end. So that's why it sounds easy, but it isn't that easy. And part of it is, as Anna knows, is when she did hers, this would take a lot more education and getting people on board.
Right.
So
I know we're not ready for that.
Yeah.
I was looking for other things like, national designation. That's a first step. And I wondered if there was some other sort of, something else we could do.
And we can, if there's support in time as this builds on that we can do that. But right now, there's an antagonism, as you well know, towards government in particular, and when regulatory things, they don't want to be, and that was one of the things we discussed with the council on doing the architectural review, that they're not going to do single-family houses anymore, or any of that. They did not want to touch that. Even despite I get a lot of complaints about big houses on the ocean side, but and that's a policy decision, and there are a lot of reasons why they want to do it that way, and so you have to understand that's the climate we're in. I'm not trying to. It's an option, but we really have to look at it to go forward on something like that.
I would like to see us do a diluted version of a historic preservation district, zone, whatever, where it's not limiting, where it's just educating, where I feel like a lot of these people go in.
Well, that's going to be a national register.
That's a national register, that was done.
A national register
Reamar?
district.
I'm talking like Reamar. You mentioned big houses. No,
Reamar was the one that caused those people caused the problem.
Well, anyway, that would start with a survey to see what's left that is historic in that neighborhood.
And we know that it's compelling, without even doing the survey. But I think just to say we're not going to prevent you from tearing down a building if you want to, we're not going to tell you what to do, but we want to make you aware of this, that these are your options, that if you did this, it would be in keeping with the nature of this neighborhood and the dynamic of this neighborhood. And if they want to ignore that information, that's fine. They're the property owners. They have the ultimate.
Well, I think a National Historic District would be the appropriate to start on if that's what you want to do.
To get them accustomed.
And before you can do that, you have to update the survey.
Yes, you have to do the survey.
Of course. And then also,
Don't say of course,
not the
but
historic.
if you just tell them,
If it's designated locally, yes.
Designated locally means that the actual buildings would have to be under the protection. So
They have to meet the criteria for historic
but I'm trying to give them some incentive. Instead of just saying we're going to tell you what to do, we're going to say we're here.
Well, I mean,
I think you have to start with the neighborhood too, and to see what they're willing to support and what they want as well.
It's all grassroots kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what, as I
got a good idea though, as far as incentives. I think that's one of the good places to start. I think if we have a list of what benefit they get out of this, then they'd be more inclined
Well,
to.
again, I think that belongs on a website. I think.
And again, I think the incentives are on the website. I think if you want to come up with a one-page or you need it to be more grabbing, then we'll discuss that at a workshop, and you can redesign what's existing. That's
It sounds
fine.
like you want to make things a little more obvious. A little more easy for people to, because people aren't going to go into depth into it like we do. So the easier, the better, the more obvious.
Right, but we have to get out there into the public and do this. We don't have the city does not have the resources to get out there and promote the city's historic preservation program. That's the situation we're in.
I understand that, but what she's saying as far as putting more on the website, like Deborah's saying, and then with what you're saying, Anna, and I also think maybe perhaps we should start doing a letter to the editor campaign where we agreed to things as a group, what should be said, and start promoting what's actually going on and list incentives, whatever we can do, and put it out there in the press. So it's one way, too, without actually mailing it.
And we've got local historic organizations as well that can help promote the historic preservation program, that can help promote the benefits of preserving your historic building or getting it designated locally. I mean, we have resources available to us, other resources available to us besides staff.
Well, right, and I think if
and ourselves, because for ourselves to kind of work with the paper, I don't understand how that's going to actually work.
No, just the idea of letting them know what's going on. People don't know what's going on, and 9 times out of 10, they're not going to read the paper either. But you're going to hit those few that do at that time, so then they know kind of what's going on. Otherwise, they really don't know what's going on. If you're working with the other organizations, their membership's not that high as far as historic interests. So
you're saying this board should make sure that there are stories about historic preservation and
things that are going on, items of interest. We could decide what we think that is my point.
And we would just instruct staff to put out a press release.
No, I'm not. No, I'm saying either you or Deborah would write the letter, or someone else wants to write. But the idea, it's the groups behind it, so we know what we're writing. We're all in agreement with it.
Vote,
so it's not a surprise. And then we that's just one way of getting something out too without
So I'm just trying to get the logistics.
Try to do that monthly, or is that what you're
I think it's a good idea. And then if people get used to you doing it, then they're going to look for it. And then it can go into whether some of the magazines we know or what have you. But as far as with the other historic groups, I agree with you, Anna, that I think perhaps we should try to figure out, this goes along with the Sunshine Law, as far as how we would meet with those groups, I guess could be asked to be put on maybe with their agenda and actually have discussions of how can we work together.
I guess only one of us. Is that how it is too? Can only one of us serve because of the
Well, it's not
Sunshine
necessarily
Law?
serving, but
Or attend a meeting
Right.
and speak.
Right, and having an open meeting there. Some of them take in public funding, so they would have open meetings anyway. So just work out the logistics and start discussions, and I'm sure they'd like to promote more of what they're doing too.
Those are all good ideas.
Has nothing to do with staff.
Yeah. Tim won't have to lift a finger.
As long as sure he keeps us out of trouble.
These are. This is what I came up with for regions that are historic. Is this about it?
No.
Am I missing anybody?
Royal Park.
Royal Park. I don't know Royal Park.
Who are they?
Read them out, Deborah.
Vero Beach Country Club area.
Central Beach, Ocean Drive, Reamar, downtown the city, original town Osceola, McAnish Park, and Royal Park.
Royal Park is the Vero Beach Country Club area.
Oh,
It's
yes. Yes,
McKee
yes.
Project, McKee and
Edgewood
No
is
idea
one.
that was called Royal Park.
Edgewood is another, Deborah.
Yep.
Edgewood. So in theory, we have.
Well, we can make a list. I think we need to work on a list. I
Nine.
can't. Yeah, I can't do it out of my
It's
head right
impressive.
here. But
All right, last thing I wanted to mention, and this is minor, Tim. I'm sorry, and you're going to scream. Code.
Maybe you shouldn't announce it every time.
I just wanted to brace himself.
just
Code enforcement for these slow emerging neighborhoods. I run through Osceola in the mornings, and it's heartbreaking because you'll see a young couple perhaps starting to renovate a house, and for every one promising, shiny renovation that's going on, I'll run by 10 yards that have grass up to the windowsills and old toilets in the front yard. And I just
We do code enforcement on it. I mean, I get a call from an unknown person in the community, and we follow up. And a lot of these things have citations on them already. If you have an address, just give us a call. We'll follow up on every one.
It takes
They're
a while.
run
You
with
have
a
to
pen.
report.
And I've told the staff, and they understand, where we have active neighborhood associations like Osceola Park, Original Town, or any of those, plus I think up in Royal Park, we have some active ones. We work with them on these kind of things.
Good.
So, and code enforcement isn't an immediate process. What happens, when you have foreclosures, the city has to make a decision whether it does the abatement. And again, guess who's paying for all this? The taxpayer. There is and getting the money back, you may eventually put liens on. I'm going through another lien reduction one. So it's not as easy to do that. We try to get the banks, particularly in these foreclosures, to take responsibility after they're going to go into the proceedings for foreclosure. So, that doesn't mean we catch them all, but we try to do that. I mean, we respond to complaints. I have my people out there. There's usually within that day and the next day, they begin their investigation.
with properties that are not occupied and are obviously deteriorating and overgrown. I mean, will the city come and mow it and then they...
Well, the city has to. You have to go through the abatement process to do that. And that requires, I believe, 15 days or a 10-day process, a notification before we can do that. I'm not saying we haven't done that in the past. It depends on the nature of it. For instance, the meth house. We move forward on that. But the problem is the city there's trespassing might be involved, liability issues and all that. You got to be careful when you do this kind of thing. So it really reaches a level where we believe it has to be done. That's normally what has been done. But we have done that. But as I said, it isn't an overnight thing. People just don't understand. You have a due process. You have a hearing. And it takes a while to do these things. We just can't automatically do it. A lot of times it's probably better sometimes that the neighbors get together and do it and help them out. But we are concerned about that because those are some of the worst. Those would create nuisances that really have an impact on the lives of people, damage property values, and attract the wrong kind of people to the property and all that kind of stuff, and vermin and all that kind of thing. So we take it seriously.
It's terrible for morale. All right, I've exhausted all my topics. Because hallelujah. All right, any members' matters that we haven't?
I had a question. Are we going to try to compile some kind of library for ourselves, not just emails and online, but actual?
I would love to. I have like a garage full of preservation materials, but when I approached City Hall about this before, I guess you had issues with space here too, and there really wasn't.
Well, I
a
mean,
spot
depends how
available.
much you want. I would have to look. We could maybe, and I'm not promising anything, so I take a look at it. Isn't that great? I'm not promising anything, but I want to look good, like I'm helping you out. No, I'm just. I'm going to see if we're talking about a little space. Maybe we could make some space up there. If somebody comes in that wants to see some information that we would have, that they could, we can give them some space. I'll see what I can do.
See, that's basically
Okay.
all I was looking for.
Yeah.
Even if we start small, and you can always
Right.
expand from there.
Are you talking about materials for us or materials for the public?
Well, it could be both. I mean, obviously.
Right, I mean-
because I brought some things from the CLG conference, and I'd like to leave them here for the group and others that would like to look at it. But where would I do that?
Unless Sherry wants to take all the. No, that's okay. But no, it would be fine. We'll try to find some room. We've got a lot of stuff that we can make room for it. So I'll see what I can do. Okay.
All right, thank you. No further discussion?
Next meeting is what?
Oh, we're going to contact you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we need
End of July, right?
calendars. And no, I think end of July, no one's here. Are you here at the beginning and the middle of July? Okay, excellent. All right, no further discussion. I'm going to adjourn.
Thank you.